Are you ready to make your film? Welcome to the DIY Film Guy's Quick Start Guide. Today I'm going to give you 5 DIY filmmaking tips that you can put to work in your project right away. No more waiting on other people. It's time to do it yourself. In our last episode, we talked about story, and we said that your story is going to influence everything about your production, from the number of actors you're going to have to the locations you're going to need. Now, we also said that successful DIY filmmaking is about good planning, and good planning starts with your story. So maybe you're working on your story now, or maybe you have a script that you like and you just need to carve it down into something that will fit a DIY budget. Either way, that's fine. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit now and speak to the folks with a script in hand and begin to give you some very specific mechanics of how to go about the production of your DIY film. Now, if you don't have a story that you like yet, or you're not comfortable writing a script, stay tuned, because future episodes we will take you through the writing process step by step. Okay, let's put story aside for just a minute and start talking specifically about the process of producing your DIY project. Now, what I'm going to give you here is a 30,000 foot view, some broad strokes of basic principles that you can put into place. I'm going to leave a lot of blank spaces, but I promise in future episodes we're going to come in and fill each one of those blanks. What I want you to do for now is think about these things we're going to talk about, try to put them into practice in your project, and make them your own. Allow me to introduce you to the 5 P's. Proper planning prevents poor performance. What I mean by that is, hopefully you've planned out your script with a DIY mindset, minimum number of actors, minimum number of locations. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use that document to plan out the rest of your entire production. And the way we do that is through a breakdown. We're going to do a script breakdown. Now, whether you have a multi-million-dollar Hollywood studio production or the smallest possible DIY short film, you still need to break down your script. I mean, that's just something we do. Now, at this point, you may say, well, Chuck, I don't have a proper breakdown form to break down the script. Well, no problem. I got you covered. Down below in the description is a link to our mailing list. Simply join our mailing list, and I will be happy to send you an industry standard script breakdown sheet for you to use. All you have to do after that is print it up, make a bunch of copies, and you are good to go. Now, the process of breaking down your script starts out like this. First, make sure that every scene of your script is numbered. Every scene is numbered because you're going to correlate a scene number to a breakdown sheet. 1 sheet per scene. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to read the script through its entirety. And as you read, you're going to have a set of colored highlighters and markers, and you're going to highlight and mark through certain important elements of your script. What are those elements? Well, print up the script breakdown sheet. You'll see a bunch of boxes to fill in. It tells you what elements you need to look at, and it tells you what color the highlights need to be. Couldn't be easier, right? Like painting by numbers. So read the script through, highlight all the important elements that you find on the breakdown sheet itself. Next, read the script through a second time. What do you mean, Chuck? That's a lot of work. Yes, it's a lot of work, but it's better to read the script through twice and make sure you have all of the things you need highlighted and everything accounted for, rather than miss something and cost yourself money later. Read the script through a second time. This time, take all the highlighted areas of the script and transcribe them into the script breakdown form. Do your best to make sure every box is completely filled in, but especially pay attention to the location, the time of day the scene takes place, whether it's day or night, specifically all of your props. Now, we're going to come back and look at the props later, but make sure you write those down. Very important. And then finally, you want to make sure that you have a page count. Okay, so now you've broken down your entire script into individual breakdown sheets. Awesome. The next thing I want you to do is get a hold of a spreadsheet program like Excel or Google Sheets or anything like that. Take the locations from your breakdown sheet. Make sure you bundle all the locations next to each other, meaning all of Bob's house location, all of James's backyard, all the restaurant locations, all in the same bundle, and put them next to each other in a spreadsheet, separating by day and by night. Also be sure to include your page numbers along with that data. Right now what we're talking about is shooting the entire film in 6 to 7 shooting days if it's a feature, or a DIY short film, you should look to shoot in no more than 2 to 3 days. Take the total number of your pages of your script and divide it by 6 or 7 if it's a feature, divide it by 2 or 3 if it's a short film. And hopefully, God willing, you're going to come up with a number less than 16 to 18 pages. Now, I've seen guys shoot as many as 20 to 25 pages in a single day, but these guys had great experience doing DIY films. For your first film, guys, I'm going to encourage you to keep it between 16 and 18 pages per day. At this point, you have to use your good judgment and say, okay, can I actually shoot 16 to 18 pages a day? Have I constrained my story enough to be able to shoot 16 pages a day, 6 to 7 days a week, 10 to 12 hours a day? That's a big chore. And for anyone who knows anything about production, that's a pretty big deal that you're not going to do with traditional filmmaking. So we're about to get really untraditional. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give you 5 tips to help maximize the number of pages you can do per day, because it ain't going to happen with traditional filmmaking. Are you ready? Here's tip number 1. Number 1, rehearse like crazy. When you have your crew going and your gear happening, you got to make every second count. So what you want to do is at least 2 weeks before principal photography starts, you want to start rehearsing really hard. Not just the lines with the actors, but the blocking as well. Your goal here is to make sure that you can perform the entire film, the entire script, start to finish in one pass, just like you would be recording a play. You know, in a stage play, you don't get a chance to go, cut, let's try that again. They have to do the entire production start to finish. That's what your goal is. 2 weeks before principal photography, begin rehearsing really hard with your actors to be able to do it straight through. Until you can do it straight through, do not roll the cameras. Tip number 2, do your proper professional prep work. A lot of P's there, I know. I love alliteration if you don't notice that by now. And what your proper prep work is doing is, if you're an actor, it means coming in on time, being off book quickly, and being ready to work. If you're a director, basically what that means is have your shot list done and to your director of photography as soon as humanly possible. And do your storyboards. I don't care if you can't draw, if you can do stick figures, that's all you really need. You just want to give the director of photography something he can look at to understand what you want to see in the frame and how you want the camera to move. If necessary, clip pictures out of magazines that demonstrate the type of look you want in your film and give that to your director of photography so he has an object lesson right in front of him to say, okay, this is what he wants to see, and he will help you get that quickly while the clock is running. Okay, here comes tip number 3. Roll 3 cameras at the same time. It makes perfect sense that if you're rolling 3 cameras, you're going to capture 3 times as much footage as if you were using one film style camera roll, right? What you want to do is use one camera as your master wide and then use the other 2 cameras in an A-B configuration, getting 2 sides of the conversation. Then as you begin to move in to your medium shots and your close-ups, take that master camera and begin capturing coverage. So you're capturing coverage at the same time you're getting important dialogue. Pretty simple, right? Tip number 4, never take more than 2 or 3 takes per setup. And if your actors are well rehearsed, you should be able to do that no problem. Now I say that because you really need to get one good take and then one good insurance take to make sure it's there. I actually have had directors of photography miscue the camera, think they rolled and didn't roll, and didn't really get that first take. And if we hadn't had that insurance take, we would not have gotten the scene whatsoever. So having that second take becomes a really big deal. Then there's tip number 5. As best as you can, always control light and sound. And typically that means you're going to have to shoot inside. Now at first blush, that's going to be a little counterintuitive because, hey, if you got the sun working for you, you just need a few bounce cards and you're good to go, right? Well, that's true, but if something happens and you get bogged down into a particular scene for any reason at all, then the shifting shadows of that moving sun will not be your friend. Plus, shooting on the inside, you don't deal with wind noise, you don't deal with cars passing by, and you're in much better control of the sound. And trust me, you do not want to deal with bad sound in post-production. Hopefully now you see how those 5 tips are going to help you maximize how much footage you can capture and get you to that 16 to 18 pages per day. One more thing I'd like to add, pretty important, we all want solid acting in our pictures, right? Well, you also have to make sure that you get good camera work and good sound, because nothing screams amateur like terrible picture or muffled sound. That can actually kill your project before it has a chance to succeed, because distributors won't want anything to do with it. So I urge you, do not skimp when it comes to your camera department and your sound department. Obviously, these tips are going to make your project run more efficiently and more expedient, which is going to save you time and money. Now, I know there's a lot more we have to talk about, a lot more detail we have to get to, and I promise I'm going to get to those details in future episodes. But for now, I just want you to get these basic principles that you can put into your production right away and start making a difference for you right now. Time to recap. You have a story that you like, that you think can be done in a DIY budget format. And now you want to start the process of breaking that thing down so you can accurately get a count of props and people and locations, everything to do with the running of your production. All right. Next thing, you want to take those 5 tips that I gave you and implement those into your production method so that you can get 16 to 18 pages per day shot. Now remember, those 5 tips were: number 1, rehearse like crazy. Number 2, take care of your professional prep. Number 3, use 3 cameras. Number 4, use only 2 to 3 takes per setup. And number 5, control your light and your sound as much as possible. And remember, be sure to hire professional camera people and sound people as much as you can to give your picture a professional look and professional sound from the very beginning. I've done a lot of talking here today, and now I'd like to hear from you. Please, in the comments section below, let us know if you found this helpful for you at all. Please let us know if there's something you'd like to hear us cover that you haven't heard from us yet. We have plenty upcoming episodes, and we'll be sure to focus on whatever you'd like to know. Stacy emailed us and said, hey, I'd like to know more about casting. Great. So what we're going to do now is we're going to dedicate at least a segment, maybe a whole short, to demystifying the casting process for people like you and like Stacy, who are out there and doing these DIY projects. Also, if you'd be so kind, please subscribe to our channel. And if you're on mobile, then when you subscribe, also ring the little bell to be sure that you get notifications about new and upcoming videos. Next, please like our Facebook page. You can find us at DIYFilmGuy on Facebook, because on Facebook we put exclusive content that we do not include here on YouTube. And then finally, below in the description, there's a link to our mailing list. Please sign up for our mailing list. We'll be happy to send you all kind of free stuff, and you'll get first crack at different announcements. Awesome. And finally, please, please, please tell a friend. This is done best in a community situation, right? Awesome. Well, listen, I want you to remember, if you want something done right, you gotta do it yourself. Until next time.